This is my clock presentation. This is a clock presentation written and directed by me, by Michael Chase. This clock is a electric beehive shelf mantle clock. This clock is all electric, has no chimes, time only, and has Arabic numerals, and is made by the Bola Company. This next clock is a 400-day anniversary clock. This clock runs for 400 days on one full winding. The pendulum twists instead of it swinging. This clock has no chime, and it has time only. This next clock is a cuckoo clock. This clock is made in West Germany and runs for 8 days on one full winding. Is musical with dancers, approximately 2 feet tall. This next clock, coming straight up, is a Galway grandfather clock. This clock runs for 8 days on one winding, has a triple chime movement, plays 3 tunes, St. Michael's, Westminster's, and Whittington chimes, and has a removable lid, meaning removable top. And this next clock is a porcelain mantle clock. This clock is all porcelain. It has a single wind, time only, no chime, and runs for 31 days on one full winding. This clock sits in our kitchen on the counter. And this next clock is what they call a schoolhouse clock, aka a regulator clock. This clock runs for 31 days on one winding, strikes on 3 chime rods, and has a bim bam chime sound. And this next clock, coming straight up, is a rhythm musical clock. This clock is a battery operated clock, has 20 harmonic tunes plus 18 Christmas tunes, plays hourly. And this clock sits upstairs next to the hallway grandfather clock. And this next clock is a Howard Miller wall clock. This clock is made by the Howard Miller Company, has a triple chime movement, and has a bonnet top. And this next clock, coming straight up, is what they call a grandfather clock. This is another example, or one example of a grandfather clock. This clock is made by the Howard Miller Company, has triple chime movements, is cable driven, and has a moon dial and beveled glass all the way around. The top, the door, and the side. This next clock is a tambour style mantle clock. This clock is made by the Seth Thomas Company, has a single chime, meaning it plays 1 chime, which is the Westminster chimes, and has an 8-day movement and a brass dial. This next clock is a kitchen gingerbread house clock, made by the New Haven Clock Company, has an 8-day movement, Roman numerals, strikes on a coil gong, and has deep, interesting carvings. This is another example, coming straight up, of another gingerbread house clock. This clock is made by the Waterbury Company, strikes on a coil gong, has an 8-day movement, it has very deep, interesting carvings, and has light oak wood. This next clock is another example of a grandfather clock. This clock is a Seth Thomas clock. This clock has a hand-painted mallard duck theme dial. This clock has a dial hand-painted in Holland. Has a moon dial, triple chime, double glass, and has an 8-day movement. This clock is a Gustav Becker mantle clock. Has an 8-day movement. Strikes on a heavily deep coil gong, and has heavily deep, interesting carvings, and has 3 finials. This next clock is a bracket clock, also known as a carriage clock, made by the Howard Miller Company, single chime, 8-day movement, and silent chime option. Thank you for listening.